Hello, my friends. You know what it means when you see this background on any of my videos. We're going to talk today about one of those subjects that nobody wants to talk about. And I have been hearing more and more buzz, buzz, buzz about death, 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 because the holidays are coming up if you're watching this live. MyFinalFootprints.com, first of all, is free, so you don't have to worry. I'm not selling anything. But the bigger issue is, how dare the sunshine today is one of the things that I have heard from friends who have experienced the death of a loved one. How dare the sunshine today? How dare the sunshine at all? People are still grieving the pandemic with all the death that happened during those times and perhaps is still happening. People are grieving right now about Hurricane Milton and Hurricane Helene, bodies that are still not found, people that have not been recovered, the suffering and travesty that happened during those storms. And more storms, of course, are happening now. And the recovery part is intense. Death is a part of life. So, when I put these backgrounds on, I'm Kathy Weaver, and some people call me the Death Whisperer, although I don't take that name because someone else perhaps has it. But that's what people have called me. You do love to talk about death, don't you? And I said, well, no, I definitely don't love to talk about it. I wish it was a topic that we never had to deal with, but in my experience, that's not how it is. So I wanted to share a bit about, we've talked here on myfinalfootprints.com videos about Death Cafe. And many of you wrote to me privately and said, what the heck? I know. So, I love networking. That's my thing. And so I network at Death Cafe. And yes, I do. And it's even on Alignable. And so Death Cafe, just type it in, find it, Death Cafe. There are in-person locations across the United States. I'm not sure if it is international yet as far as in person. And now I've heard of Grief Share. So, of course, I go to YouTube for everything. You know that. And Grief Share has very cool videos on there. Zig Ziglar is actually one of his videos is there. So that is a good one to watch. But I think in terms of people say to me, oh, don't even start with me. I'm not going to a counselor. I'm not going to a support group. I'm not doing that. And I appreciate that. But I always say, where is a good fit for you to share about your experience or to learn from others? I don't tell people what to do. You should do that. You should do that. And of course, my kids go, yeah, right. But it's back to that same drill. What should I do? I have absolutely no idea. All I know is when you go to myfinalfootprints.com and you see my first grief book, Who Knew There Would Be More? He Hit the Clouds Running and Never Looked Back. I always tell people once you have read that book, you have earned your PhD, DD, which stands for Personally Having Dealt with Death degree. And that means that now perhaps you will have a better understanding, perhaps, of what someone else is going through. So you might have a bit more compassion. And actually, this has happened to me on several occasions. It's never going to happen to me. He wasn't healthy, or she was old, or whatever their answer to that is. And sometimes people have to validate, justify death. I get that, maybe. For my faith journey, I know where my people are. And so it's not as traumatic as soon as I flipped that word to homecoming. And that's why Grief Share is a great fit for me, because it's a um, believer based. It feels like a believer based type of environment. So, anyway, I just wanted to share about Grief Share since we've talked about Death Cafe. And I made a few notes today because, quite frankly, I have been to too many celebrations of life this year, too many. And I many of them have been very private. I know some people do funerals on like live stream, actually, and that's great. If that's your choice, that's wonderful. The ones when I attend are so private, so painful, so raw. It's probably a good thing that they didn't live stream it. But anyway, the funerals I've been to this year, celebrations of life, it's always an interesting term for me because You know perfectly well the person who is the closest to the person who has died is not celebrating. Now, again, your belief system, I know where mine are. Their homecoming word has helped me a lot, and I know they're home with Jesus. That helps me. Wherever your belief system takes you with the death topic, maybe that will help you as well. So, how do you feel when you are decorating that Christmas tree and you pick up all these ornaments and oh my gosh, another ornament with something, something? How do you feel when you're decorating that holiday tree? I'm not putting a tree up this year, forget it. I'm in no mood to celebrate. How do you feel when you're invited to a holiday party? How do you feel when you are experiencing a sporting event and everybody's cheering and raucous like this, and all you're thinking about is, oh, my person would so have loved to see this win or this, whatever it is. How do you feel about that? And people don't think in terms of the small stuff, so to speak. And attending a holiday party, how are you? Oh, I am so fabulous, you can't believe it. Oh, really? That's great. You're welcoming a new baby. All you can think about is your person doesn't get to see that new baby. Um, you know, I have talked about this before. I follow hospice nurses and morticians and funeral directors and all kinds of people on social media. Then there's lots of them, by the way. Whether you're on TikTok, Twitter, X, YouTube, Instagram, wherever you are, you'll find them. I promise you will. And you have to find out which one's a good fit for you because some of them are a bit extreme, in my opinion. But because of one of the death cafes I attended a couple months ago, and I told you guys this, I got to learn about water cremation. Oh my gosh, you talk about the most incredible stuff. My friends who have not experienced death, at least not to the degree that I have, or certainly it's never going to happen to them, or they don't like to dwell on it, let's say. If I talk about it, it'll happen to my someone. Those things are always interesting to me because, as I said, a PhD DD, personally having dealt with death degree, maybe you're a little more compassionate this time. Maybe you're a little more empathetic this time. And now you've got an opportunity. You don't have to share your journey. Those of us who have experienced lots of death have learned to listen. Tell me what happened. Let them go. You know they just need an outlet, and you might be that outlet. And as soon as I say, how do you feel about water cremation? That starts a conversation, by the way. I'm going to have to rewrite my networking books and put conversation starters like that. Relax, I won't. How do you feel about water cremation? What? Never heard of it. Or tell me about that. Or look it up on where? YouTube. That's my go-to for everything. My friends, there are so many resources now that we didn't have 100 years ago when I first experienced my first close-in death. But I think in terms of the terms that I use, the people that are surrounding me now, I've told you before there's a death doula. That's an industry. There's a death midwife. That's an industry. Look these up and find out what they do if you want more information, if you're going through health journeys yourself, if you've got friends in your network that are having challenges or struggles with the grieving process. I'm not going to any support group. I'm not going to therapy. Please know that our therapists are out there to serve us. And once you find a few great ones, they are lovely resources. Pastors in your church, they could be lovely resources. Your church community as a whole, they could be lovely resources. But many times, if someone has not experienced your specific type of death, well, I've had 42 deaths since Tuesday. Well, you win the prize. What does that mean? And people do the quality versus quantity or vice versa. I've had 42 deaths since this morning. What? And so, what does that mean? And then all of a sudden, well, that person was really close to me. This isn't a competition. This isn't a competition. People are going through different phases. It can be 1 year ago, it can be 1 minute ago, it can be a century ago that someone has died and they still impact your life. Think about this. So think about the holiday part, be a little compassionate, extra compassionate perhaps with people who have had the death of a loved one recently. Those are usually raw and hard. First holiday, first everything, first Chiefs game, first whatever you do. But think about what it's like for the people remaining, the people watching, certainly, because sometimes, again, we're examples and they learn from us, which is a little scary. But you think about the impact that a death has had on you, the death impact it's had on your kids, your grandkids. Again, they're kind of watching. And for me, it has been a gift to flip my word death to homecoming. Because as soon as I flip it, oh, da 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 just died. And then you kind of go, oh my gosh, he gets to go home. Isn't that cool? And people, of course, are always going, you better call somebody for her. I get that, but it really is a peaceful feeling. If you're a believer, get with spiritual family folk that would actually lead you to Christ if you haven't gotten there yet. Get with spiritual friends who will guide you through the Christian-based Bible teaching death topic. It's just a wonderful thing when you can think of the family part. But for me, I go to Alignable for Death Cafe. Samantha Potter is the leader of that group. And a little warning, that is a secular group. So that is not faith-based, FYI. Very completely non-denominational of any kind. Let's just talk, what's your death thing? Go. Samantha's great. And that's Death Cafe on Alignable. There's a networking event and there's a hangout type event on the fourth Sunday. Check Alignable if you're in the North America area. And by the way, I just heard that Alignable may be expanding to other locations outside North America. The rest of the story is Grief Share. Again, you can go in-person Grief Share locations, but guess what? Grief Share is all over YouTube. So sometimes it gives you, oh, I can talk about that. Oh, that's not taboo subject. Oh, she experienced the same thing I do. I'm not nuts. Please consider, if you haven't already, finding places to be. And again, they really didn't have all the support stuff online 100 years ago when I first experienced death of a loved one. And they do now. So don't hesitate to push those buttons on YouTube when you find cool stuff that will actually make you go, huh, I never knew about that. I never thought about that. So again, my friends, I'm Kathy Weaver. I talk about death a lot, I guess. But for me, it's not a taboo subject. Like I say, when you know where your person is, it kind of gives you a bit of peace. It's still traumatic at the beginning, and you still have triggers over the years, over the decades, of course. But the bigger issue is now you can help someone else. You are an expert on it because you've been through it so many times. Someone else is brand new, and they're like, what just happened? Why do I feel like there is a hole every time I take a breath? And how dare the sun shine today? How dare the sun shine today? My person is gone. Something to ponder, my friends. When you see myfinalfootprints.com come up here, you know what our subject's going to be. Thank you for hopping on. Thank you for sharing with your friends. Let's get through these holidays. We've only got together, and that is a great place to be, right? I'm Kathy Weaver. Bye for now.